Because what we do here is to ensure that, one, we inspire you, give you the information, and of course this information is pretty much filled with a lot of analysis here and there and a breakdown of the same. But also, on the sad note, by the way, is that there was also a reported accident. Now, this reported accident involved around 60 people. And of course, with these 60 people, you get to realize that some of them were football players, because this minibus, which was belonging to Dokolo School of Nursing, was on en route from Dokolo district to Lira city, and it collided with a Fuso truck along the Lira Soroti highway, leaving 60 other passengers seriously hurt. And it was, of course, belonging to the School of Nursing, the Kolo School of Nursing, and of which this particular one had 3 dead and 60 injured after players' minibus collided with the truck. So it had some of the players in there. And of course, we stand in faith with those who lost their loved ones, and we also wish a quick recovery for the 60 that were injured during the same incident. But it has been a weekend filled up with lots of news and information. Let me check on Chantal Olive Akandinda, who's in Studio B, to see how she's doing this morning, how the weekend was, and of course what really stood out for her over the weekend. A very good morning, Chantal, and how are you doing? It's a Black Monday on your side.
Well, they say if you can't get yourself to make a choice on what color to put on, black is always the option. And well, it's one of my favorite colors, if not my favorite color. So definitely, it always does magic on a random day. Black dress, yes, we go.
Okay.
But good morning to you, Sonko, and I hope your weekend was good. Mine was eventful, I should say. I've barely had time to rest, but it's going to be a good week, I assume, and I believe it's going to be a good week. It
was indeed a good week. Schools are resuming, and then there was the chairman of the National Resistance Movement coming out to remind the believers that they will need more than just prayers to get out of poverty. What would be your comment on that?
Well, I stand to agree with him, because it's not just prayers that get us out of poverty. It's the work that we do. So it's not one thing. It's a couple of things that we put together, and we are out of the poverty that we are faced with. So it means you're going to pray, yes. It means you're going to work hard. It means you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone. You cannot keep believing by faith like the Israelites when they were when they were on their way to the promised land where food will just fall from heaven. No, you have to work. Plus, even the Bible says those who don't work, they don't eat.
Yes. So if you do not work, you won't eat.
You will not eat, so we have to work.
As much as you're praying, or as much as you go to church every time, you're fasting, but remember, you have to add work onto the prayers.
Actually, they say, Sonko, work and preparation is a form of faith. You are exercising faith. So I don't know who preaches to people that only prayers will deliver them from poverty.
We only wait to see how possible that would be. But in the world that we are living in today, not only do you need prayers, because it does seem like you will need a lot of hard work, you will need the prayers to it, and then you will need the connections at some point in your life. The connection may be a friend, a brother, but of course to put you in the situation where you want to be. But of course, on top of it, the prayer has to be a mandate for you as a viewer. But nonetheless, here we are, and it's a brand new week, if you ask me. A week that has started on a note of taking students back to school. I don't know how prepared the parents are, but if you're to give advice, and for the time when, if you're to throw back a little bit to the time of going back to school, what was going at the back of your mind? What was going on at the back of your mind during such a day?
Well, to be honest, personally, I always looked forward to going back to school for personal reasons. However, I was also taking a look at Mr. Kananura's, recommendations and guidelines for these children who are going back to school. So if you have a child that is or children below 12 years, these are not allowed to be sitting on motorbikes alone. And I think, Sonko, you've seen this as well in the streets of Kampala. You find a border rider with a kid at the front and another one at the back, or even 2 more at the back, and they're all below 12 years. And that is very dangerous, considering how the border riders move through town. So they need to be on those bikes with someone who is older to be able to be safe. Also, we've been urged to make sure that we will drive carefully, adhere to the traffic rules and regulations. It's very sad that we have to tell grown-up people to adhere to the traffic rules and regulations, don't you think?
Yeah, it's so true. And more so if you're a parent and you have children, you're taking back to school. I mean, you have to be very mindful of how you take them or how you drive and how you act while on the road. But that said, we do have some news gathered for you, with which I will start off from the local perspective to see what has been making headlines within the country in the past 12 and 48 hours. And of course, we are starting off with President Museveni, who has called for the production of more foot and mouth disease vaccine doses to combat the contagious viral livestock infection. The president, accompanied by the First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, Janet Museveni, made these remarks during a meeting with a delegation from the Egyptian government at his Chisozi farm in Gomba district. He explained that Uganda has over 44 million livestock, including 16 million cows, goats, pigs, and other domestic animals, with which he further emphasized that there is need to vaccinate all of them. The president welcomed the partnership between the Egyptian and Ugandan governments through the National Agriculture Research Organization, NARO. He further believes this collaboration will accelerate research and yield positive results. The Egyptian government provided Uganda with 10 million doses of FMD vaccines at a subsidized price of $0.90 per dose. The first shipment of 3 million doses was already in the country, with another 3 million doses expected within 3 weeks, as reported by Honorable Frank Tumwebaze, the Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries. Now, Minister Tumwebaze further stated that they are discussing a partnership with NARO to build a vaccine production facility in Uganda. This facility would allow Ugandan scientists to use local samples to develop the fourth strain of the vaccine. The samples would then be sent to an Egyptian laboratory for matching and final production of the quadrivalent vaccine. General Mohsen Azouz, Director of the Veterinary Service Department in Egypt, assured the president that the remaining vaccine doses will be delivered on schedule. He emphasized the Egyptian government's commitment to the partnership with Uganda. Now, the Prime Minister, Robin Anabanja, has warned head teachers in government schools that she is to force head teachers have their children in the same schools that they are deployed as a measure to enforce quality education in schools. The Prime Minister says many of the head teachers prefer taking their children to private schools, and she was addressing head teachers and patriotism coordinators in schools at Olive Tabo School of Leadership and Pan-African Center for Excellence, Kaweweta in Nakaseke District. Oliver Tambo School of Leadership and Pan-African Center for Excellence, Kaweweta in Nakaseke District, is a military institution named in one of South African freedom fighters who liberated South Africa from the apartheid regime. The center was the training site from South Africa by President Yoweri Museveni during their quest for freedom to the black South Africans. About 170 head teachers and patriotism coordinators in schools are gathered here for a training in mindset change. Now, while addressing them, the Prime Minister, Robin Anabanja, warned head teachers who prefer taking their children to private schools instead of the schools they are deployed to teach in. She further warned that she is about to set out a government policy on salary loans. She said that the problem of teacher absenteeism is attributed to heavy borrowing by teachers who end up running out of schools, fearing arrests from the money lenders, and abandon children in schools. The 2023 report by the Ministry of Education indicates that 3 out of 5 teachers in government schools are always absent in class. Nabanja says what remains of the culprits is to choose either to teach in a government school or go to a private school. Now, moving on, authorities of Land Queen of Our Lady, Queen of Martyrs Namalinga Catholic Parish in Bombo Luwero District have welcomed the over 500 pilgrims from Nebi Diocese who are on the way to Namgongo Catholic Shrine. The pilgrims are spending the Sunday night at this school as they prepare to continue with the journey today. The journey to Namgongo Catholic Shrines for this year's Martyrs Day celebration, reducing for pilgrims trekking from Nebi Diocese. And having spent the Saturday night at St. Joseph Catholic Church in Luwero, the pilgrims have arrived at Bombo in Luwero District. They spent Sunday night at Our Lady of Queen Martyrs Namalinga Catholic Parish in Bombo, and they are setting off for Kampala today. And also, as 3rd June draws closer to celebrate the martyrs there at Namugongo, in Kakumiro, pilgrims gathered to celebrate one of their own sons, Andrea Kahwa. Now, Prime Minister Robin Anabanje was chief guest, where thousands from the Archdiocese of Mbarara attended. Now, Andrea Kahwa, or Andrew Kagwa, met his death after he was arrested at his home, and Kagwa's arm was cut off and later beheaded, hacked to pieces at the present-day Munyonyo Martyrs Shrine. He died on the 26th of May, 1886, and Andrea Kaha, according to the history of the Uganda Martyrs, was born at this very site in Kochi High Valley, where a shrine was built in his memory. Now, thousands of pilgrims from the Archdiocese of Mbarara gather every 26th of May to celebrate him. Kahwa is the patron of catechists and teachers, as the Archbishop of Mbarara Lambert Bainomjisha, together with Bishop of Fort Portal, Robert Muhira, and their host, Bishop of Hoima, Vincent Chirabo, joined the pilgrims at Kochi High Valley in Kakumiro District. Now, Prime Minister Robin Anabanje delivered a message from President Yoweri Museveni to the congregants, and the Martyrs' Day celebrations in Kakumiro will be following the 3rd June, where Christians will gather to celebrate Uganda Martyrs' Day in Namugongo, which will be Monday next week. And here we are. Away from the local scene, Chantal Oliver Kandinda has more details from what has been happening away from Uganda.
Well, away from Uganda, Israeli forces have bombed a tent camp housing displaced people in a designed safe zone in Rafah, killing at least 35 Palestinians, according to the officials, many of the victims being women and children. The attack on the Tal as-Sultan area came as Israeli forces also bombed shelters housing displaced Palestinians in areas including Jabalia, Nazareth, and Gaza City in the past 24 hours, killing at least 160 others, according to the Palestinian officials. The Israeli military confirmed the attack, saying it targeted Hamas fighters using precision weaponry. It admitted civilians were injured when a fire broke out and said the incident is under investigation. At least 35,984 Palestinians have been killed, and up to 80,643 people have been wounded in this very war. Moving on, North Korea has notified Japan of plans to launch a satellite between 27th May and June 4th after putting its first spy satellite into orbit at the 3rd attempt last November. The Japanese Coast Guard said the 8-day launch window began at midnight on Sunday into Monday, with North Korea detailing 3 maritime danger zones near the Korean Peninsula and the Philippines island of Luzon, where the satellite carrying rockets debris might fall. The notice came ahead of the first trilateral summit between Japan, South Korea, and China in nearly 5 years. Officials from the United States, Japan, and South Korea held phone discussions after the notice was issued and urged Pyongyang to suspend the plan, as a satellite launch using ballistic missile technology would be in violation of United Nations resolutions, Japan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said. And back to Africa, 10 people have been killed and at least 160 other villagers have been kidnapped from a remote community in Nigeria's central Niger state, officials say. A large number of armed men suspected to be from Nigeria's militant Islamist group Boko Haram invaded Kuchi village on Friday night, local officials Aminu Abdul Hamid Najume told the BBC's World Service. Those kidnapped were mostly women and children, while those killed included local hunters who were providing security for the area, he said. The gunmen reported rode into Kuchi on motorbikes and even spent time cooking food, making tea and looting houses before leaving more than 2 hours later. Mr. Najume, also who chairs the council of the Munya local government area, said the Kuchi community had been left traumatized and anxious to hear news of those taken. And lastly, a tiny NASA satellite was launched Saturday from New Zealand with a mission of improving climate change predictions by measuring heat escaping from Earth's poles for the first time. This new information, and we've never had it before, will improve our ability to model what's happening in the poles, what's happening in climate, NASA's Earth Science Research Director Karen St. Germain told recent news conferences. The satellite, which is the size of a shoebox, was launched by an Electron rocket built by a company called Rocket Lab, which lifted off from Mahia in the north of New Zealand. The overall mission, called Pre-Fire, the company is later to launch a similar satellite of its own. They will serve to take infrared measurements far above the Arctic and Antarctic so as to measure directly the heat and the poles release into space. And that's it for climate news and what is happening across different parts of the world.
And well, away from what has been making headlines from the various parts of the world, back at home with our front pages, what is making headlines at our front pages of the newspaper. We start with what the New Vision is highlighting because Monday's case of the New Vision shows school heads face arrest over ghost learners. Audit has found over 1,000 schools are culpable in the same. Now, schools are reopening or are resuming operations today officially, but this is a story you can find about more in today's New Vision. Now, also, General Muhoozi and Rwandan counterpart discussed security as President Museveni asked Judiciary Parliament to join executive in wealth creation. Find out more with today's New Vision. Now, in health, how ready are you for the Namugongo trek? As Waitiseka market traders want 1 trillion shillings compensation. Also, police arrest surerities in Dr. Aaron defilement case. Find more details with today's New Vision. Now, the Daily Monitor is highlighting why new Kampala Jinja roadworks have stalled. Then, fresh blood. Muhoozi is new bishop of North Ankole Diocese, which Muhoozi. Find more details of that in today's Daily Monitor. And then, still the Daily Monitor is highlighting learn from China and run own businesses, says Minister. Then the Healthy Living, the quest for a national health insurance scheme has been highlighted. UNEB sets deadline for submission of assessments. Then nation awaits results after mixed reviews on census. Then Chief Executioner Mukajanga's soul refuses to rest in peace. Martyrs' Day celebration. As traders strikes over IFRI's cost government 80 billion shillings, according to data, during the time when they went down for a strike, according to new data that has actually been reported. Now in Kenya, the Daily Nation, how tea farmers lost 600 million Kenyan shillings. According to a scandal report lays bare rot at KTDA, including cases of tax evasion and financial breaches. Then private jet was cheaper than flying KQ, President Ruto says on US trip. Then Kenya police mission to Haiti put on hold. Best host officers yet to be completed. Then school feeding, empty bellies and empty desks, hidden crisis of childhood hunger while at school. Then state has been sued over 366 million HIV testing kits tender. Will the center hold? More questions on Kenya's politics. The political marriage between President William Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua is facing a litmus test as the Cold War between the two Kenya Kwanza alliance hedges and more chaos is likely to prevail ahead of their elections. Now, lastly, from our press review, The Citizen, why Muchuchuma Liganga projects are marking time. Then El Nino not responsible for East Africa floods, according to the experts. Then Tanzania's top techpreneurs, Dr. Elvis Silayu, taking medical care beyond hospital walls. Then in sport, football, triumphant Yanga celebrates 30th mainland title in style. Then Tanzania threatens to sue over $27 million. Biden, a Tanzanian has threatened to sue over $27 million Bin Laden bounty. Find more about that in today's Citizen. Now, meanwhile, when we do return after the break, we're having a conversation with Chantal Oliver Kandinda, and this conversation is rotating around a new report by the Graka Marshall, which revealed that 82% of women who go on for loan terms, who go out for credit facilities, have less information of the terms and conditions before agreeing to these credit terms. More of that is what we're going to be discussing after the break. But for now, we do have our song of the day coming in from Radio and Weasel, Ngenda Maso. Stick around. Good morning.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is
cases of crime where we are seeing robbers, thugs, and you can put it in any way to mean the thieves that we are currently having in the capital. So when you look at the situation like that, for everyone who's taking back the children, especially early in the morning, as early as 5, have been cautioned to be very vigilant and prepare their kids or children accordingly so that they can go to school and receive education. But the fact that they have to be very secure as they're taking them back to school, it should be a mandate for every parent. And of course, the schools have been cautioned to also prepare accordingly. And when the term is beginning, of course, before the inspections even go on by the Minister of Education, you get to realize that at schools you have to prepare so well so that the students return and feel like they've not missed anything at school. And so the teacher preparations is supposed to be top-notch as well. And for the parents who are yet to return their students or children back to school, we also hope that you get the money this week so that your child can definitely go in for second term. But nonetheless, sit back because we have more news information coming here this morning on Good Morning Uganda, and we do hope that
was brought to you by
Just take a polite loan of 200k to stock my shop. the signs and symptoms of success. The bank commander, not the bank teller.
Why hassle for a loan when you've got MTN Momo? We're Sotinge. Use the Momo app or dial *165*5# for all quick loans. Choose from the different loan options from our partners and get one that works for you. Together, we're unstoppable.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Most welcome back to our show this morning, and thank you very much for sticking around to Good Morning Uganda, and I'm glad to have your company as well. Now, a recent study by Graham Marshall Trust has revealed that there's a shocking 82% of Ugandan women who sign paperwork, and this paperwork is to access credit from financial institutions, but they are unaware of their obligations. Now, when you look at this number of 82%, it's a representation of the women in business that we currently have as a country. Now, the 82% is revealing that out of those in business, only 18% are aware of the information, the negotiation terms, the level of securities they're supposed to come with, and of course, everything they need to know about a credit. Now, the question is, what happens to the 82%, and why do we have such a huge number of women in business who have no idea? And of course, this lack of understanding leads to devastating consequences, with many women losing their collateral to financial institutions due to ignorance of their rights and responsibilities. And well, our conversation is right here, where we're going to be having the same with Chantal Oliver Kaninda, who is in Studio B this morning. Now, when you look at this, we've seen so many businesses in Uganda today collapsing, or we've seen many businesses shutting down due to quite a number of issues. One, capital to buy new stock. At times, when you look at those that have actually closed because of the overgrowing debt or loans that they've taken from commercial banks or other financial institutions, then you can as well look at some businesses that end up collapsing in their second year, if at all the business owner or the parent of this business is no longer active in the line of business. This is a very huge conversation, because we have so many women today in business, but the fact that they are collapsing or running out of business because of some of the loans they take is worth a discussion this morning. Chantal Oliver Kaninda, good morning to you once again.
Sanko.
And when you look at some of these cases here, 82%, again, I want to first of all want to understand what has led to these women having less knowledge about the loans or the credit terms before they even acquire any of these loans or debts that they go for.
Well, when you look at where we stand, to be brutally honest, this is not a field that has been very dominated by women. When you look at how men maneuver through some of these things, women have not, over the years, have not been really equipped with the kind of skill and knowledge that would enable them to maneuver through the scammers and the exploiters that are around town. 1, 2, 3, when you're in the car on the street, you're going to see this person telling you, we can give you credit in less than 2 hours. Another will tell you in less than 3 hours. Another will tell you in the next 40 minutes. Yeah? And to people who are not very well versed with such a world, it's going to sound really good that they want to give it a try without putting other factors into consideration. And do remember that most money decisions, especially even in homes, most money decisions are usually made by the men, but supported by the women. So with such a background, you realize that women are still trying to maneuver their way through how to go about business and trying to, if I may put it like this, women are still trying to get out of the back and get to the front, especially those in entrepreneurship. Now that is where the challenge comes in, that they're diving into the deep end, very high competition. Sometimes you get desperate, and before you know it, you are talking to someone to get you money. Women also are sort of easy to manipulate because they're usually more trusting. As long as something sounds good, they're most likely going to go with it. And if you land on a very desperate woman, she's one, tired of poverty, she's two, tired of being dependent on someone, and all she can think about is, I need to make my own money. Most women are at that point, I need to make my own money because of certain factors. So when you find her at such a point where she's desperate, definitely she's about to make a rushy decision that is not well thought through or even well investigated, and that is how most women end up in such issues.
Of course, when we look at the reason as to why many people in business or many business practitioners look out for loans, it can be for quite a number of reasons. One, at times, is to meet some of the expenses in the business. It can be the cost of doing business had become high, and then someone decided to go in for a loan. Or at times, for those who want to expand their businesses and they do not have enough capital or enough funding, they end up going to these commercial banks to at least get more money and put into their business so that the business can grow and expand. But again, when you look at some of the other details of this report, you get to realize that some women don't know the obligations while signing the paperwork, and of which I wanted to ask Chantal. When it comes to signing this paperwork, you've mentioned something that many women find themselves in desperate situations. So that means the only way they are done with the paperwork is most of them don't even go through all the terms. They will just sign, see the money they're supposed to receive, and then they're good to go. And then minding less about what happens after the signing of these agreements. Let's look at the signing of the documents and the like. Is it a time we started having conversations of women trying to have financial advisors, maybe commercial lawyers to come in on board?
It is about that time now, not that just women, but of course now the report suggests the biggest percentage of the two genders. It's the women who are really falling prey to some of these schemes. I'm choosing to call them schemes because some people actually target women and women in business. And the reason as to why they target them is because, like I said, they're easy to manipulate. They know women are hungry, they know they're desperate, and the moment someone knows your weakness, it's easier to get to you. They'll say what you need to hear at a point, and before you know it, you have made the decision. So it is about time, yes, we involved commercial lawyers. It is about time. We had even also, on a broader point, it's about time we had a protection unit or fund for even the borrowers, both men and women, because at some point, if you're to cross over to the other side, there are also men who are falling prey to some of the manipulation that is going around when it comes to credit institutions in the country.
And can we call this, can we term this as maybe ignorance of some of the terms, or is it something that many people in business today, because this one is a general kind of thing, because you realize with 82% of the women, you'll also realize the number for the men in business who also don't know, who have less or who have lost property to commercial institutions simply because of having less information about the deals and agreements is concerned. When you look at this kind of situation, is it because of lack of information or the ignorance about these terms, or is it something that many of the business people mind less about unless it comes up with repercussions?
Usually by the time someone goes to borrow, they are desperate. That is what you need to know usually. So what is making them desperate? Probably they have taxes that they maybe didn't know about, or that they have accrued over time, or they have costs, or they're operating even way above what they are making, and they're trying to make sure that they sustain this business. So someone goes to borrow when they are desperate. Now, during desperate times, if someone is not careful, they are likely to make a decision that is going to harm them. For example, when you're desperate and someone tells you, listen, I can give you money in the next 30 minutes, but your interest rate is 20%. And all you can think about is your workers striking at the factory or even at your business. All you can think about is my business is closing. I can't afford to close this business. Maybe if I put in this money, I'm going to be able to recoup it in the next few months and pay it back. You're borrowing at a 20% per month at that, 20% interest per month. And after when it's all done and you've not been able to clear, that means your money, that means your property is gone. Whatever you used as collateral is gone. So at this point, you will figure that this individual was desperate, and in their desperation, one, they will be manipulated. They're easy to manipulate. Two, if you haven't gone to law school, it's most likely possible that you will not be in position to comprehend those documents that you are signing. Now, if I'm telling you, I'm giving you money in 30 minutes, and you've walked into my office, and we are taking maybe say 10, 15 minutes or 20 to have the documents signed, how will you send them to your lawyer so that your lawyer can read through them? Or are you going to carry your lawyer to read through the paper? So you realize that we are more trusting to the financial institutions that extend the credit to us without even considering some of the factors that we should be looking into before we get the loans. So when someone is desperate, I insist, that is the point where it is easy to manipulate them, and it's easy for them to make the wrongest decision, especially financially.
And when you also look at Hilary Emmanuel Musoke, who is the private secretary for wealth creation in the office of the president, acknowledged that there is an exorbitant 21% interest rate which is charged by commercial banks, deeming it too high for many businesses in Uganda, or many Ugandan-owned businesses. So that means inclusive of those women. At least for some of the commercial banks, that 21%, they usually range between 21 and 24% depending on the bank you go to. Now, that one at least is annual. But then there is these credit facilities, there is these financial institutions, the micro-lending ones. Those ones, you will find that they might give you credit on like 15% interest, 10% interest, and this interest I'm talking about is per month. Not annual. For banks, usually the 21 to 24% is annual. But these credit facilities will give you at per month, and you're paying a 15%. And do you know why? Because they're going to tell you their turnaround time is shorter than the bank. When you go to the bank to try and process to process a credit facility, you're likely going to take a week or two or even more chasing this individual, sign here, sign there, your guarantor, and all this information. Then there comes the savior, who will tell you, no, our turnaround time, like if it takes too long, 12 hours. So that means if I went to the office at 8 in the morning and I started processing, in the next 3 hours, I'm likely to walk out with that money. Why do I have to go to the bank? But then again, I have now put behind the thought of, but the 15% should be too high. Okay. So my desperation and the turnaround time, the seemingly good service they're offering, is what has led me to working with them without me putting into consideration the other terms, like, listen, they might seize your property if you fail. I know a credit facility, a credit institution that will tell you, if you do not pay on the day you're supposed to pay, the 15% interest that you've paid per month is going to be calculated per day. So that means the more days you extend, the more interest you're getting. And if the worst gets to the worst, the collateral you put after a few days is what is going to be taken, sold, and they recoup their money apparently. And then when you also look at this, by the way, you get to realize that the existing regulations or the existing terms and conditions highly favor commercial banks at the expense
the lenders, at the expense of the borrowers, yes.
Of the borrowers, rather. So when you look at the kind of situation here, it becomes very difficult. Now, do we have alternative routes or alternatives lenders that we can choose, or that women in business or entrepreneurs in Uganda in general can choose to avoid putting themselves in such situations or such risky situations?
To be honest, Sonko, when you look at the trend in which we have been following, you realize that there is been information that most businesses do not even reach their first birthday, a case in point. Yeah, and that leads us to the fact that we do not have enough training or enough business training. Yes, someone is going to go to school and study business administration. You know what they study there? You know some of the course units in business administration? There's going to be procurement, good. There's going to be communication skills, accounting, quantitative methods,
communication
to name but a few. To name but a few, yeah, depending on the semester and all. But then again, when it comes to how to run business practically, and the variations in there, you will realize that there is a lot of information that is left untouched or not given to those that go to study business administration. But the other question is, how many business administration students or graduates are business owners today? Most of them, you'll find them in office, heading the account section or accounts officers and stuff like that. So that means we need to go back down to, do people know how to run business? There has to be trainings for some of these people, or for the business owners, or for the entrepreneurs. Then after that, under business training, that's why you'll have now the financial skilling for these people. That's when they will know, at what point do I get credit? Is it necessary for me to get credit? What kind of credit can I get? Did you know that it is possible for you to get credit but not going to a financial institution or a bank? You can establish a relationship with an individual who is not going to even charge you interest, and they get you money and you work and pay them back, as long as you legalize or you even sign documents that are going to protect the two of you. Yeah. So there is very many ways that people can attain credit, but they do not know how to attain this credit, and in which are they safe enough to attain credit. Also, how many people are aware of the certified credit institutions that they should be going to? How many are aware that, listen, this is the one you can go to, this one is not registered? Do they even know how to check if one is accredited to give credit?
Okay. And also just to quickly remind the viewers on that same note that Chantal Oliver Canada is putting across, is that there is an alternative of the Uganda Development Corporation, which of course the women in business and the youth will be highly favored, because it's a 10% interest if you go in there and acquire a loan from the UDC, that is the Uganda Development Corporation. So 10% of that is what you have to pay in as interest as you're paying back after getting those loans. So that is an alternative, but mainly for the women in business and the young people. Now, our conversation is one that is most probably inviting the viewer to comment and give an opinion, one or two, on the same discussion. That is why we are opening this conversation back to you, the viewer, wherever you are, to be part of it on the X app and, of course, on our WhatsApp number that you can see on the screen. In our question, we are asking, in your opinion, how can we equip women with more knowledge on attaining credit? In your opinion, how can we equip women with more knowledge on attaining credit? Because it does look like 82% of the women have less knowledge about the terms and conditions of these loans that they acquire. And at the end of it all, many are at risk of losing their collateral. Others end up losing their business. And you know, Chantal, before we even get into what needs to be done, when you look at the risks attached to, poor planning of these loans, what are some of the major ones that the viewer should not take, should really take seriously, rather, when you come to think of, the risks attached to you making loans that you've not accounted for, or going in for loans that seem to have a huge interest rate at the end of it?
You know, when you undertake business skilling or business skills at a point, you realize they will tell you, if you have a job to do, for example, you've got, let's say you've got a request for quotation or an LPO from a company, and you're supposed to deliver. Now, instead of going for a credit facility that, I'm giving an example, for a credit facility that is going to that is going to attract a big percentage, how about you go for LPO financing? Yeah. So, but this is information that is not known to everyone. So the point, at what point do you make a financial decision like that? You have to have the right knowledge and the right people that are going to guide you on what needs to be done. Usually people make an independent decision or independent decisions, but also, for example, why would you borrow money, especially money that has huge interest or even interest attached to it, for you to start up a business? Just an example. Usually it is recommended that when you are borrowing, you borrow one for things like expansion, for things like purchases, but not borrowing to start. But that is information that is not known to especially the SMEs down there that are trying to, you know, push for their way into the industry. And that is the part that we need to put our focus on, scaling and sensitizing these individuals on where they can go, what they can do, which financial institutions can they work with, which ones can't they work with, what is the most realistic interest rate you can work with vis-a-vis what your business or the kind of business you're doing. Such questions or such discussions are what we need to have.
Let's also look at these commercial banks, Chantal. And of course, at the get-go or at the start of a commercial bank, the reason is to make the profits because it is a privately owned entity.
Right.
And the chances are very minimal for these commercial banks to make favorable loan agreements with any entrepreneur. But you know, I do know that banks have financial advisors, especially for any other person, for the outsider or for their banker. When you look at, you know, these financial assistance skills that they give out to those applying for loans, do you think many of them are equipped enough before they go for the loan, or the bank is always, you know, siding with itself to ensure that they get more of the people applying for the loans instead of helping them make better use of these loans?
It's going to take a financial institution that is more people-centered to undertake safeguarding their customer. At the end of the day, they're going to have to make profit. So the more they have customers, the better for them. And it's entirely upon you as a customer to protect yourself. So why is the bank or the financial institution having someone double check you, having someone double check your guarantor, but you're not having someone double check the documents they're having you sign? So it goes back down to individuals. The banks are a business and they will have to protect themselves. They can't love you more than you love yourself. Just know that.
Indeed, and a conversation that is really open to everyone. And also, when you look at this same report, you get to realize that if you are a woman in business, many of them are, by the way, very afraid of expanding because of the risks attached to expansion of the business.
The biggest percentage of women are not, their risk appetite is not as high compared to the men's risk appetite.
Yes, and many of them are scared of expansion. And at times when they go in for these loans, you do realize that some of them either want to expand, or maybe the business is collapsing and they want to kind of make to rejuvenate it and take it back to its glory days. But it does seem like these loans become quite unfair to them. And of course, as we are talking to the commercial banks, but what advice do you think is highly needed to be given to the women in business? Because as much as we are talking about the credit and everything, when it comes to the practitioners of business, at times it becomes very hard for them to survive if the business is not making money and the only alternative is getting a loan.
Like I said, Sonko, when you go back to the reasons as to why women borrow, you figure that most women, the biggest percentage, one, they are not very well versed on how to run businesses. Two, there is a sense of comfort it gives a woman if she earns however little, as long as she's earning a little for her pocket. Yeah, so that means that she's literally desperate, but for the little. Yet, if we're trying to do business the right way, we're going to have to go back down to how many women have business proposals for their businesses? a case in point. How many women do research on the businesses they are about to undertake or to open up? You will realize that the biggest percentage of women, she will see a friend opening a boutique and she'll be like, I think a boutique works. She has not done market research. She doesn't have a proposal for it. She doesn't have the budgets for it. She doesn't have projections for it. And then she opens a business. She knows where to get the material or the goods, for example, to start. And she will just dive in. And that is the point where we need now to have discussions with these women and equip them with the necessary skills to be able to open a business and sustain it. So ignorance, I would say desperacy, I would say ignorance, those are the two main things that are disturbing women when it comes to business. But the last thing would be the risk appetite. Now, if you have a risk, if your risk appetite is not big, if you're someone who is risk averse, that means that if you're not willing to take risks, or if you are, if the way you're taking risks, they have to be very, very calculated, which is for most women, you realize that that means you have not equipped yourself with the necessary knowledge for the bigger picture of the bigger risks you're about to undertake. And that is very dangerous for someone who is going to take credit, because credit is a risk. And how big the risk also will be determined by your risk appetite. But sometimes, uncalculatively, a woman will take on such a big risk, and that will cause them problems. So if you should dive into business as a woman, risk appetite is very important. But how desperate are you is also very important. And how much knowledge and skill do you have, or have you equipped yourself with, to be able to run that business you want to undertake?
Well, and then the same study by Graham Marshall Trust revealed that the women do not know about their obligations while signing paperwork for getting a credit from these financial institutions, and they only come to know about it when their properties are being attached by their creditors after failing to pay. So which poses a very huge risk for those who actually go in for the loans, that many go in after getting the money, they mind less about the repercussions if at all they fail to pay in due time. And at the end of it all, many women have found themselves losing their businesses due to these loans that they took, or due to the ever-growing debts that they got from the commercial lenders. But besides that, you also get to realize that it is high time we started opening up conversations of financial helpers, of financial coaches who will help those in business to grow. And of course, it is something that we also have to turn our focus onto the government to set out other lending bodies that will support women, the young, and of course, even the men in business, because it is not only on the side of the women, however much the percentage does reveal that 82% of those women in business lack the knowledge and information about the loans that they take. But then also, these women entrepreneurs were encouraged to seek for loans from the Uganda Development Corporation, like I did mention. The UDC offers at least 10% a more favorable interest rate, courtesy of the government funding specifically allocated for women and the youth. So the young people and the women out there in business, there's at least a 10% interest rate for you under the Uganda Development Corporation, if at all you're seeking for a loan to support the growth of your business or the recovery of your business. And that does it for our newsreel this morning. Coming up is the GMU Tourism Express with Irene Allen Namisango, bringing you more details from Uganda's tourism and whatever happened at the Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo over the weekend. Stick around. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Nyati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja, a documentary film about our unity as Ugandans and Africans.
Bunyoro would have simply created an East African community that we are looking for today.
The rulers of Bunyoro are actually Luos.
We people who live across the Nile, we are so related from our myth or from just the Nile.
We are the same people, and genetically we are even the same people.
We are similar people.
We are one.
Pamoja, we are one.
Use that word, pamoja.
Premiering every week from 3rd February to June 2024 at the National Theatre and Indere Center. Daily screenings are from 4th February to June 2024 at Hams Cinemax and the National Theatre. To get a ticket, call 0778 787 660. Tuko Pamoja?
PDM, changing lives.
The cardinal role of a government is maintaining law and order, safeguarding citizens' rights and providing essential public goods and services. Throughout its tenure, the government has consistently upheld these principles. This foundation creates an environment conducive to delivering crucial social services to citizens through diverse approaches such as taxation, strategic budgeting, and effective policy implementation. A transformative education system, advancing healthcare provisions, enhancing social welfare, and propelling infrastructure growth, all of which continue to evolve daily to cater to the population's expectations. Supported by a meticulously organized network of ministries, government remains committed to serving its citizens. Coming soon on your public broadcaster, The Front Bench, your interface with the government every Monday at 8:30 p.m. with Joram Paul Sonko, only on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Atowoli mwavu tekibalwanya tuli bannayuganda yaddosula mu katango yokyakasoliwo tokyawasi yuwe Uganda nebogende bula nowasa omuzungu nze nempaza omusoga tekikukyusa yadde ennyindo yoli mpanvu ate yoli nyimpi temutusosola. We are brothers, etoke ne chinyebwa, lumonde ne kawo, yemere ya kuno.
Well, thank you so much for sticking around. My name is Irene Alena Misang, and this is the GME Tourism Express, the time that we have committed to exploring and covering for you all the hidden gems, telling you or bringing to you everything that you need to know about Uganda's tourism, giving you what is happening in the world of travel in Uganda, the travel news, the trends, activities, accommodations, anything that you need to know about Uganda's tourism. We talk to different stakeholders to tell you what is really happening. And well, today we are going to talk about the Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo. What happened? This is a flagship event in Uganda's tourism. that brings together different stakeholders from the public sector, from the private sector, international stakeholders, regional stakeholders, coming together in one spot to talk about tourism, to talk about responsible tourism, to connect, to learn, to unlearn, to get so many things together about Uganda's tourism and see how we promote it both domestically and at an international level. Well, the expo was set to happen from the 23rd of May to the 25th of May. It was at Speak Resort Munyonyo in the new convention center. I should say that in my opinion, for the 8 years that Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo has been happening, this was my best so far, starting from the venue. I think the best decision as a country that we had was setting up that convention center. The venue was just on spot. The lightings, the booths, the tourism booths, everything was so much on point that this time round we were in a convention center that we had no issues of whether it rained, whether it was so sunny, everything was still moving just as Uganda Tourism Board had planned it. And we should say that this time round, Uganda Tourism Board, the CEO, Madam Lilia Jarova, and the whole team, Minister of Tourism, all the partners should get their flowers for this event because it was a success, starting from the welcoming event, the welcoming dinner that was even actually live streamed here. It was so much, it was very good. That was a time when tour operators were connecting with different tour operators, exhibitors, we are connecting with fellow exhibitors, hosted buyers with tour operators. The event hosted 70 hosted buyers from different African countries and also European countries, but these ones were mostly from countries that our source markets talk about: Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Egypt, South Africa, countries that really bring in so many tourists coming to Uganda. Also European countries like Asia, United States, European countries like United States, UK, they also came in to see that they exhibit, that they talk to the tour operators and see what Uganda has to really sell. And this year's theme was responsible tourism. And indeed, for this expo, what was happening, the culture, the experiential tourism, experiential activities, the cultural immersion, we are really talking about, we are really showcasing responsible tourism. And from this event, we can really say that the future of Uganda's tourism lies in sustainable tourism and responsible tourism. If we are able to carry on these together, being responsible as we travel, becoming responsible travelers, becoming responsible tour operators, we can be able to sustain the beautiful, the diverse culture and heritage activities that we have in the country. So when you go, if you attended Powate, you can really say, I hope you saw that really responsible tourism and sustainable tourism is really the future of Uganda's tourism. Well, but also this expo was really putting Uganda at the forefront, Uganda's tourism at the forefront of Africa's tourism. So we want to see that Uganda is a must-visit destination. So this expo was putting out all the beautiful things that we have in the country, from the cultures. If you went for the expo and you went to the culture village, I think you saw that the immersion, the clusters that we had, people from Chigezi, people from Umbale, Karamoja, Karatunga guys, people were there exhibiting. And the most interesting part for me was that part when I saw the Mbale people showcasing a traditional performance that was showing how they carry out their Imbaru traditional performance ritual. So it was very interesting. You would really get immersed in the so many cultures that we have. And the CEO was really so much strong on these points that experiential tourism gets visitors to real experience the beauty and diverse cultures that we have in the country. And this is the future that we want for Uganda's tourism, to see that everything that we have is out there, it is put out. And from the CEO of Africa Tourism Board, he was saying that Powate, or Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo, is really the future of Uganda, of Africa's tourism actually, because it brings together different source markets from Africa, like I said, Kenya, Tanzania, different stakeholders coming together to unlearn and learn so many things about what the country offers. So I think it was a great opportunity for tour operators in the country, hoteliers, people that are engaged in the tourism sector to come together We had 70 hosted buyers, we had 240 exhibitors, and we had over 5,000 trade visitors. So it was very intense, it was very massive. And the third day was an open day, it was a consumer day. So different Ugandans, different people were coming in to see what cheap travel deals are there to be taken on, because you could book your trips there, you could book your air tickets there, you could buy crafts that are handmade by Ugandans. You could see journalists that really craft beautiful stories about Uganda to tell you everything that you need to know about Uganda through a Ugandan eye. So it was just an amazing event that I hope that if you miss this year, next year you don't have to miss this, because it is just growing bigger and getting bigger. Just like this year, it was the best for me. And all the flowers go to Uganda Tourism Board, the CEO and the whole team at Uganda Tourism Board, Ministry of Tourism, and all the partners that came together to see that this was a success. Well, this week we are going to have the head of public relations, Mr. Gesa Simplicius from Uganda Tourism Board, to come and give us a real wrap-up about the Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo. Talk about the seminars that happened, the farm trips of hosted buyers, the culture exhibition, the culture village, arts and crafts, everything. So just keep on being on set. Anytime you're going to have a whole wrap-up of the Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo. Thank you so much for watching. I am Irene Alenamisang, committed to uncovering everything that you need to know about Uganda's tourism. Thank you for tuning in. See you tomorrow.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
PDM Live.
Nyati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja, a documentary film about our unity as Ugandans and Africans.
Bunyoro would have simply created an East African community that we are looking for today.
The rulers of Bunyoro are actually Luos.
We people who live across the Nile, we are so related from our myth or from the Nile.
We are the same people, and genetically we are even the same people.
We are similar people.
We are one.
Pamoja, we are one.
Use that word, pamoja.
Premiering every week from 3rd February to June 2024 at the National Theatre and Indere Center. Daily screenings are from 4th February to June 2024 at Ham Cinemax and the National Theatre. To get a ticket, call 0778 786 60. Tuko Pamoja?
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning once again, and thank you for sticking around. This is Good Morning Uganda Business, and let's see what is happening in the business world. Now, if you thought that theft was only taking place in Kampala, I need you to think twice, because according to farmers in Tororo, the cattle thieves have the audacity to even steal during broad daylight. Now, back then, cattle stealing or even stealing would happen usually in the nights, but looks like lately it happens during the day. Now, according to livestock farmers in Tororo district, they are raising concerns over increasing cases of animal theft in Tororo, and they say many farmers across the districts in different sub-counties are losing mainly cows, goats and pigs. And this has brought a lot of concern, because this is of course what they've put their work into. Now, according to the leaders, cattle thieves target families of persons with disabilities because of their vulnerability and hurdles in providing security for their animals, especially at night. But also do remember, we have said that even theft happens during broad daylight. Now, according to Mr. Simon Peter Ikileng, the chairperson of Tororo District Disability Council, said that the thugs are very bold to an extent that they even steal during the day. Now, according to Mr. Ikileng, he made these remarks during the handover of domestic animals, including cows, goats, and pigs that had been procured for persons with disabilities by the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development through the ministry under the special grant for persons with disabilities over this weekend. Now, he also said that security personnel should strengthen patrols to curb this problem. And according to Miss Harriet Auma Orumi, the chairperson of the Kagwara B village, said whereas the local leaders have been tasked to ensure no animal moves without clear documentation, the thieves are now using new tactics to evade villages at night and tie the mouths of animals with ropes so that they do not make any noise. Clearly, these thieves are hell-bent on going over with these animals. Now, that is what is happening when it comes to farmers in Tororo district. That is very unfortunate. Hopefully, security agencies are able to curb this. But do note that in areas like Karamoja as well, we've seen cattle rustling happening every now and then. Now, away from that, let's cross over onto Uganda's creative industry that seems to be picking up. We are talking social media influencers, we are talking content creators, we are talking artists. Name them now. This industry seems to be picking up, and this is according to the Uganda Bureau of Statistics report. The arts, entertainment and recreation services contribution to the country's gross domestic product, that is GDP, increases to 41%. That is in the financial year 2022 to 2023, from 22% in the financial year 21-2022. Now, individuals in the creative industry have highlighted growth in their field, and this was during the Creative Central, an event meant to showcase Uganda's creative sector at the Motive Creation in Kampala that took place on the 25th of May. Now, Mr. Ivan Sewaje, the brand manager at Motive, noted that collaboration among creatives has helped them see what other people in the industry are doing and share ideas about business management and development. And for so long, creatives have been brushed under the carpet as people just create and do not contribute to the entire ecosystem. But well, as you can see, this time they get to form businesses that are sustainable. Then they are looked at as real businesses, something that was not existing before. And well, that is good news for the creative industry. Now, well, after this, we are going to be crossing over into how we have been trading this week away from the creatives, and how business is going pretty well for the creatives. Especially if you've noticed, when it comes to content creators or digital content creators, when you go to different applications or social media platforms, you'll be seeing a lot of content. And I think even for mainstream media, there's been a challenge. There's been a very tight competition between the digital content creators and advertisement. I think that is a conversation we'll be having another time. Well, let's cross over and see how we were trading by closure of business. That was on Friday last week. will be the traffic. So please do stick around as we try to maneuver this Monday and see how it all goes. Well, as we are closing into the Martyrs' Day celebrations that will be taking place in a few days from now, we all do remember that we have pilgrims that are always coming in, going to Namugongo side at the shrines. And well, let's take a look and see how we are faring this morning, just in case we have some traffic or not, so that you know which route you can use as you're trying to make your way to town if you're someone that chooses that side. Now, I am on Sunday Road. And as you can see on Sunday Road, I seem to be having free movement with just small holdups that do not really indicate that it is too busy, as you can see, and I am able to move onto Sunday Road. Any holdup that you see is really small and shouldn't take you too long for you to cross through. Now, when I look at Nachianja seems to have a little bit of a holdup, nothing for you to worry about. As you continue on Sunday Road, as you can see, I seem to be moving well. Onto Namugongo. Namugongo also seems to be okay for you to be able to cross through. And as you can see, the holdups do not mean so much. The yellow zones usually mean that there is slow movement, but not slow movement that you should be worrying about. All the way onto Namugongo Road, I am safe to move. Now, this junction that has Chaliwajala Trading Center usually is mad with a lot of traffic, but if you proceed onto Namugongo Road, you realize that there is pretty much free movement. And as I come now, I'm trying to connect to town, and I'm trying to join Nadia side. As you can see, Nadia also is not as busy, and there's just slow movement, but nothing to worry about. You are able to move, especially for you who is coming to town. But for you who's coming from town, going back to Nadia side, Namugongo side, you are safe to move. You can step on the gas now. As we are approaching, as we are still onto the Nadia Chaliwajala Nadia Road, the holdups are really small, as you can see. And the only time you will be finding a bit of a holdup is because of the junction that is on here, as you are now getting onto, as you're closing into the Nadia roundabout. Short of that, there is free movement if you're coming from Namugongo side, and no traffic to worry about. Now, onto the Nadia roundabout, depending on the route you choose to take, I see pretty much all the areas are okay. If you're trying to use this roundabout to cross in and join Chisasi or join the Kampala Northern Bypass Highway, you are safe to move. So you are okay. Now let's proceed onto Nadia Road. Nadia Road seems to be okay for you to move. there is not much to worry about. Now, when you get to the junction that has Majwala Road, that is where you'll be finding a bit of a hold-up because of the junction. Definitely short of that, you are okay to move. Another junction that has traffic is because you will be now joining into Ntinda Road. As you all know, Ntinda Road usually is mad with a lot of traffic, but let's cross in and see. There is a lot of traffic as you're now getting closer to the part that takes you to Chigowa Road. That is where you'll be finding a lot of traffic. After that, when you join the old Chira Road, you are safe to move. You'll only be finding small holdups because of the lights, the Ntinda lights, and those are nothing to worry about. Usually it's for the control of traffic. Safe movement if you're trying to join the Ntinda Nakawa Road or Ntinda Chisasi Road, safe to move. So you are okay. If you join Bukoto Ntinda Road, you'll be finding holdups around what they call Frobel. That is where you'll be finding bits and pieces of holdups that are not to worry about. On Chira Road, you are safe to move, except for the holdup at the junction that has St. Andrew's Church, and that is usually because of the lights. That is where you'll be finding traffic. Old Chira Road is relatively safe for you to move as you are trying to make your way to town. So when you get to that point, you get to decide whether you can use Lugogo bypass or you proceed on to the old Chira Road. And usually Lugogo bypass at this time is safe for you to maneuver. Well, that's it for our traffic update this morning. Coming up is Good Morning Uganda agenda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Was brought to you by
PDM, changing lives.
Nyati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja, a documentary film about our unity as Ugandans and Africans.
Bunyoro would have simply created an East African community that we are looking for today.
The rulers of Bunyoro are actually Luos.
We people who live across the Nile, we are so related from our myth or from just the Nile.
We are the same people, and genetically we are even the same people.
We are similar people.
We are one.
Pamoja, we are one.
Use that word, pamoja.
Premiering every week from 3rd February to June 2024 at the National Theatre and Indere Center. Daily screenings are from 4th February to June 2024 at Ham's Cinemax and the National Theatre. To get a ticket, call 0778 787 660. Tuko Pamoja?
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso. Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala. We have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.